Hello everybody, it's me, Riffraff Hornhelm, and I'm back again with another presentation from the Dwarven Vault. And today we have a fail tale. Now today's fail tale has to do with gatekeeping. So what do I really mean by that? If you look at the landscape today and read some of the articles and see some of the YouTube videos, they talk about various versions of the game Dungeons and Dragons. All good. And they provide some factual information about when various changes occurred to the game and the conclusions that this game is one version and this game is another version. Classic, original, basic, expert, advanced. Okay. I was there. I am a very old player, a fossil dwarf. And I choose to do what I do and the way in which I do it because to me the emphasis should be on the game and not the individuals. So, from my perspective, and from the perspective of many of my friends and colleagues in my age group who played the game way back in the 70s when it was first a new game, and many of us, myself included, played predecessors to D&D. And I played with the creators, so not a daily thing, but this is part of what people need to understand. Playing by various versions meant you had to have access to the additional information that changed the game as it came out. The first 5 years that the game came out, it was changing on a monthly basis. And here's the real kicker. When it first came out, it was a very incomplete game. The concept was fantastic, and everybody was on board with the concept. In the 70s, if you wanted to find out anything about a new game, you either got it through word of mouth or you read about it somewhere. Word of mouth did not include things like computers and the internet and texting and cell phones and this endless stream of information and communication that's available to all of us today. So really, when I talk about it being a fail as to people gatekeeping these versions, some of the comments I get back, both through the channel and through people I've talked to, what you're doing is 2E, not 1E. Or it's classic and not 1E. Wow. I can't begin to tell you how meaningless, at least myself and the people I've spoken to, find that. The game wasn't being played by any one version until the books came out. And that was the first time that you really had a complete set of rules for the game. In great detail. And at that point, that became pretty much the canon lore for the game. It didn't mean that you couldn't play with the old stuff. Things like the monster manual or the spells and things like that, that was all reverse compatible. But it did mean that there was really no emphasis on whether you were playing original or classic or basic. That wasn't part of the equation. People were not into quantifying things like that at that time. Now, it's fine. Like I said, if it's factual, great. I don't have a problem with saying it. It's just that it isn't as important as people would like to think. And what I find particularly amusing about it, especially being a player from the old days, is people telling me, oh, you're not this or you're not that because you call it this instead of, I call it 1E instead of 2E. Well, there's a reason for that. When we started the channel, one of the things we certainly recognized is that we're a great deal of experience of some of the key members of the channel was in 1E. And what do I mean by 1E? Well, to me, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is a complete and total set of rules at that time. The three books, DM's Guide, the Player's Guide, and the Monster Manual, that to me is first edition. And when I say advanced Dungeons and Dragons, it's really the first time that they had put together in complete form the rules for advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So it's first edition, advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Funnily enough, that's also what it says on Google and stuff, which is what we used for guidance at the time because, like I said, none of us called it that. But now I've sometimes been accused of, well, you're really talking about classic. No, you're really talking about 2e. No, I'm not. I'm talking about the first edition hardcover Advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules. And for those of you who say that's not appropriate, you're gatekeeping. And that's not appropriate. It's a less appropriate viewpoint, from my view, of course, for people who, in many cases, having watched videos and read articles and so forth, were clearly, well, in some cases, definitely not even alive at the time we were playing the game. They don't understand the society, the culture, the way things were at that time. So saying that one thing or another is a different game, okay, if you want. To me, I don't look at it that way, and part of the reason being is that, if you were selling it as a complete rule book, you shouldn't have to buy add-ons in order to play the game. You may do that because it's fun, and it may come out as canon lore in a future version of the game, but it doesn't necessarily justify changing, oh, it became this on this date, and so I don't really agree with all of that. Some of it I do. But what I really think is that it's not very important because it's not the way the game was played at that time. Nobody thought about it that way. Definitely nobody thought about it that way. So when I say fail, I'm talking about the people who are gatekeepers saying, well, you're playing this or you're playing that. And no, I can't say that I agree with you in any way, shape, or form. And the way some of this is presented from a variety of sources, like I said, just makes it clear that they don't have any direct experience of playing at that time. It was a different world then, and the game was definitely a very different proposition compared to anything else that had come out at the market. And finding a foothold was difficult, and all during that time, this game was coming out piecemeal. So what version? Who cares? You got rules, we're in agreement, we play. And the rules that we didn't have, we made up. To me, this is one of the big reasons why Dungeons & Dragons has never really settled down. It's constantly in flux, and it's because you trained your customers, TSR, to adapt and be flexible and do whatever they needed to do to keep the game interesting, fun, and flowing. That's my view. One last thought to leave you with, though, is irrespective of gatekeepers and their way of doing things, remember why you came to play the game. You played the game to have fun. Don't let anybody tell you what's right or what's wrong. When I get comments like that, I always think that, oh my goodness, this person is definitely a rules lawyer and so forth and so on. Those are the kind of people that I don't find having a very fun or successful time playing this game. It is totally different now. There's no comparison with what I'm talking about right now in 5e. Because 5e has the spirit of the game Dungeons & Dragons, but it's very, very different from the version that I started playing and became popular with me and my friends way, way back at the beginning of time. Maybe even before that. Depends if you ask my children or not. So, really, folks, don't let gatekeepers do their thing. Go and play the version of the game that your DM puts together for you and do it in agreement with him and do it because you want to have fun. That's my view, folks. If you enjoyed today's video, please do us a favor, leave us a like, consider subscribing if you haven't, and share with your friends. Drop us a comment. I don't expect everybody to agree with me, but that's fine too. But I don't think I'm ever going to agree with the people who parse out the game the way they do, as long as they continue to act as gatekeepers and say, this is what this is what this is. If you do this or that, you're not doing this, you're doing that. Yeah, okay. I really just, okay, whatever. Any case, folks, thank you so much for your kind support. Take care, everyone. And remember, dwarves rock!